in the still hours of a golden afternoon, when the sun hung heavy over tiled rooftops and lotus ponds shimmered in silence, the people of ancient China rested, not in sleep's deep night, but in a gentler moment, the sacred pause between wakefulness and dreams. The midday nap was not idleness, it was harmony, a rhythm of life that echoed through dynasties, emperors, scholars, and farmers alike, all surrendering, for a brief while, to stillness. In the language of the ancients, it was called wu shui, wu shui, the noon sleep, a ritual so ordinary yet so profound. It was said to refresh not only the body, but the soul itself. Confucius once spoke of balance in all things, the balance between effort and ease, between movement and rest, and in those quiet hours, beneath paper screens and drifting incense, balance was found. Today, we travel back through courtyards lined with bamboo, through the hush of silk chambers and tea houses, to rediscover this forgotten wisdom. Before we begin our story, if you enjoy these quiet journeys through time, you can gently tap like and subscribe. It truly helps these calm tales reach more sleepy travelers. And in the comments, tell me, from where in the world are you listening tonight? In the year 1046 BCE, nestled within the silken folds of the Zhou dynasty, Emperor Mu was not remembered for his military campaigns, nor for his poetry, nor even for his elaborate collection of jade combs. No, Emperor Mu was remembered for his naps. He could nap anywhere, on thrones, on scrolls, once, famously, on a ceremonial goose. His court chroniclers recorded his naps with reverence, noting the exact angle of his neck tilt and the number of snores per minute. 3 snores per breath, wrote one scribe, a sign of divine tranquility. One afternoon, during a high-stakes diplomatic summit with emissaries from the northern tribes, Emperor Mu leaned back in his lacquered chair, closed his eyes, and began to snore. The court froze. Was this a sign of disrespect? A power move? Or had he simply eaten too many dumplings? Turns out, it was all 3. The emissaries, bewildered but intrigued, waited. 17 minutes passed. The emperor awoke, stretched like a cat in sunlight, and declared, "Let peace reign, for I have dreamed of dumplings and harmony." The emissaries, confused but hungry, agreed. Thus the Nap Treaty of 1046 was born, an accord sealed not with ink, but with yawns. From that day forward, midday naps were enshrined as imperial tradition. The royal schedule included the hour of honorable drowsiness, during which ministers were encouraged to recline, reflect, and occasionally drool on their robes. Productivity soared, morale bloomed, and the emperor's goose, now retired, lived a life of quiet dignity. So, if you ever feel guilty about a midday snooze, remember Emperor Mu. He napped his way to peace, prosperity, and poultry-based diplomacy in the quiet corridors of the Lu state, where bamboo rustled like whispered wisdom, and scholars debated the ethics of soup slurping, lived a man named Confucius. You may know him as the great philosopher, the father of moral virtue, and the inventor of the stern but wise nod. But few remember his greatest mystery, the case of the missing pillow. Confucius was a man of routine. He rose with the sun, lectured by noon, and napped precisely at the hour of the ox, around 1 p.m. His pillow, a modest bamboo roll embroidered with the phrase "nap and no," was his most prized possession. It was said that he once solved a riddle about filial piety mid-snore. One fateful afternoon, the pillow vanished. Chaos erupted in the school. Students searched high and low, interrogating squirrels, bribing pigeons, and even consulting a local nap oracle named Auntie Yawn. The scrolls were rifled through. The dumpling stash was overturned. A suspicious goose was briefly detained. Confucius, ever calm, simply said, "The pillow is not lost, it is merely elsewhere." 3 days later, the pillow was discovered beneath a stack of scrolls titled The Ethics of Yawning. The philosopher chuckled, adjusted his robe, and declared, "Even wisdom must rest." He then proceeded to nap for precisely 23 minutes, waking up with a new theory. All things are cyclical, especially sleep. From that day forward, his disciples embraced the nap as sacred. Zhengzi practiced vertical napping, leaning against trees with his eyes closed and his thoughts horizontal. Yan Hui developed scroll napping, where one reclines with a book on the face, absorbing knowledge through osmosis and mild paper cuts. Thus, the Confucian school became not just a place of learning, but a sanctuary of snoozing. And the pillow? It was enshrined in a glass case, revered as the soft cornerstone of Chinese philosophy. During the golden haze of the Tang dynasty, when poetry floated through the air like incense and peacocks strutted with philosophical purpose, a quiet revolution was brewing, not in the streets, but in the bedrooms. It began with silk. Silk production had reached dazzling heights. Artisans wove threads so fine they could tickle a cloud. And with this silky surplus came a new obsession. Pillows, embroidered with dragons, stuffed with phoenix feathers, scented with lotus blossoms, shaped like reclining immortals. Lady Plum Blossom, a noblewoman with a flair for comfort and controversy, hosted the first nap salon. Guests lounged on embroidered cushions, sipped chrysanthemum tea, and debated the metaphysics of dreams. One scholar claimed he dreamt of a talking dumpling that solved his thesis. Another insisted he napped so deeply he briefly became a cloud. But not everyone was invited. The bureaucrats, tireless scribes, copying tax codes and imperial edicts, were left with stiff bamboo rolls and the occasional hay bundle. Backs ached, spirits sagged, until one brave official, Minister Yan Li, declared, "We serve the empire, yet we nap like goats." Thus began the Silk Pillow Rebellion. Hundreds of bureaucrats marched, slowly, with frequent breaks, to the palace gates, bearing signs that read, "No rest, no reports," "Down with hay," "Up with feathers," and "We demand nap equity." The emperor, amused and slightly sleepy, summoned his advisors. After a brief consultation and a brief nap, he issued the nap decree of 743. All officials shall receive one silk pillow per annum. The third hour of the afternoon shall be known as the hour of honorable drowsiness. Any snoring heard during this hour shall be considered a sign of loyalty. The rebellion ended not with swords, but with snores. Productivity soared, morale bloomed, and Lady Plum Blossom was appointed Minister of Nap Culture. In the waning days of the Tang dynasty, when the empire was fraying like an overused silk robe, and warlords were popping up like mushrooms after rain, one official had a brilliant idea, or a terrible one. It depended on how well rested you were. His name was Minister Taxus Snoozius, a nickname obviously, and he had a problem. The imperial treasury was emptier than a monk's snack drawer. Grain was taxed, salt was taxed, even poetry was taxed, though only the rhyming kind. Then, one afternoon, while reclining on his embroidered cloud-shaped pillow, Taxus had a revelation. What if naps were taxable? Thus was born the pillow tax of 907. The decree was simple. Every citizen owning more than one pillow must pay a monthly nap levy. Pillows with embroidery were taxed double. Goose feather pillows incurred a luxury surcharge. Dream journals kept beside pillows were subject to a whimsy fee. The public was outraged. Pillow smugglers emerged overnight, stuffing cushions into rice sacks and whispering code phrases like "the dumpling dreams tonight." Black market pillow dens popped up in tea houses, where patrons could rent 15 minutes of unregulated fluff. One rebel, known only as the Yawning Shadow, led a resistance movement. He distributed pamphlets titled Freedom to Fluff and organized nap-ins, where citizens lay down in public squares and snored in protest. The emperor, caught between fiscal desperation and a growing nap rebellion, summoned his advisors. After a heated debate and a group nap, he repealed the tax and issued a new decree. Let no man ease dreams be taxed, nor his feathers counted. Minister Taxis was reassigned to the Department of Blanket Regulation, where he spent his days measuring thread counts and regretting everything. In the opulent heart of the imperial palace, where jade dragons guarded silk corridors and every breeze smelled faintly of plum wine, Emperor Xuanzhao was known for one thing above all: his nap choreography. Yes, choreography. The emperor believed that the position in which one napped could influence dreams, digestion, and even diplomacy. He commissioned the royal nap cartographer to document his 8 preferred nap poses, each with its own name, philosophy, and embroidered diagram. Here they are, preserved in the scrolls of the Imperial Manual of Restful Majesty. 1. The Phoenix perch position, reclining sideways with one arm tucked under the head, the other extended like a wing. Purpose: encourages dreams of flight, freedom, and occasionally roast duck. Notes: best practiced after poetry readings. 2. The jade curl position, curled like a dumpling, knees tucked, chin down. Purpose: promotes introspection and digestive clarity. Notes: often used after heavy banquets or philosophical crises. 3. The lotus float position, lying flat on the back, arms folded gently over the chest. Purpose: ideal for lucid dreaming and astral travel. Notes: must be accompanied by incense and silence. 4. The imperial sprawl position, spread eagle on a silk mattress, limbs akimbo. Purpose: symbolizes total surrender to the cosmos. Notes: requires a mattress the size of a small province. 5. The scholar's slump position, slouched over a scroll, head resting on ancient wisdom. Purpose: absorbs knowledge through osmosis and mild drooling. Notes: popular among students cramming for Confucian exams. 6. The bamboo bridge position, legs crossed, back straight, head tilted slightly forward. Purpose: combines meditation with micronapping. Notes: often mistaken for deep thought. 7. The pillow pyramid position, surrounded by a fortress of pillows, only the nose visible. Purpose: maximum comfort, minimum visibility. Notes: used during royal tantrums or awkward family dinners. 8. The celestial slide position, reclining on a sloped silk chaise, one leg dangling elegantly. Purpose: enhances dream elegance and nap swagger. Notes: reserved for birthdays and diplomatic naps. The emperor rotated through these poses weekly, and his dreams were recorded by the royal dream scribe, who once claimed His Majesty dreamt of a moon made of tofu. It was serene, in the heart of Luoyang, where lanterns glowed like sleepy fireflies, and the river murmured lullabies to the moon. there lived a peculiar sect of scholars known as the Mengshu, Shiguan, the Dream Scroll archivists. Their mission? To record dreams, all of them. It began with a single man, Scholar Wu Dan, a mild-mannered historian who once dreamt of a talking carp that recited tax codes. He awoke, scribbled the dream onto a scroll, and presented it to the emperor as a divine message from the subconscious realm. The emperor, who had also dreamt of seafood that week, was impressed. Thus, the Dream Scroll Bureau was born. Every morning, citizens lined up outside the bureau's jade gates, clutching their dreams like dumplings, fragile, warm, and slightly confusing. Scribes in lavender robes listened patiently, nodding solemnly as people recounted tales of flying goats, infinite staircases, and dumplings that whispered secrets. Each dream was transcribed onto silk scrolls using a special ink made from crushed lotus petals and pigeon tears, or so the scribes claimed. The scrolls were then categorized. Type A, prophetic, e.g., I dreamt of rain, and it rained. Type B, philosophical, e.g., I became a cloud and understood taxes. Type C, culinary, e.g., I ate a mooncake the size of a house. Type D, unclassifiable, e.g., I was a dumpling arguing with Confucius. The Bureau's archives grew so vast that they had to store dreams in floating libraries, tethered to hot air balloons. Monks were hired to catalog them by snore frequency. One day, a farmer named Old Bao submitted a dream in which he saw a golden ox dancing on a hill. The next week, a golden ox statue was unearthed during a construction project. The Bureau declared it a Level 9 dream event and awarded Old Bao a lifetime supply of pillows. Skeptics scoffed. Dreams are just brain noodles, they said. But the Bureau remained steadfast. Even noodles, replied Scholar Wu Dan, can form a pattern. In the scholarly city of Xi'an, where ink flowed like wine and debates lasted longer than dumpling festivals, two rival scholars once clashed, not over philosophy, not over politics, but over a hammock. The scholars were Master Yan Dan and Professor Zhou Ming, both renowned for their intellect, their flowing robes, and their deeply held belief that napping was the highest form of wisdom. One spring afternoon, a rare silk hammock was hung in the courtyard of the Imperial Academy. It swayed gently in the breeze, embroidered with clouds, and stitched with the phrase, "To nap is to know." Both scholars arrived at the same moment. I reserved this hammock, said Yan Dan, adjusting his scroll satchel. I was meditating on it from afar, replied Zhou Ming, dramatically unfurling his fan. A crowd gathered. Tensions rose. Someone dropped a dumpling. To resolve the dispute, the scholars agreed to a nap duel, a contest of sleep skill, judged by 3 impartial monks and one very sleepy cat named Chancellor Whiskers. The rules were simple. Each scholar would nap for 30 minutes. Points awarded for elegance, snore rhythm, and dream content. Disqualification for drooling or blanket hogging. Yan Dan chose the lotus float position, arms folded, face serene. Zhou Ming opted for the scholar's slump, head resting on a scroll titled The Ethics of Pillow Sharing. The duel began. Birds chirped, tea steamed. Chancellor Whiskers curled up on the judging scroll. After 30 minutes, the scholars awoke. The judges conferred. Yan Dan had dreamt of a celestial dumpling that whispered the secrets of the universe. Zhou Ming had dreamt of flying over Xi'an on a giant pillow, distributing wisdom and snacks. It was a tie. The emperor, amused and slightly drowsy, declared, Let the hammock be shared, for wisdom, like pillows, is best when passed around. From that day forward, the hammock became a symbol of scholarly unity. Students napped in shifts. Professors held office hours mid-snooze. And Chancellor Whiskers was promoted to Dean of Drowsiness. In the Song dynasty, nestled between the invention of movable type and the rise of tea poetry, a peculiar obsession took hold of the imperial bureaucracy. Data, charts, graphs, scrolls filled with numbers so precise they could make a goose weep. And so it was that Minister Lee of the Department of Restful Affairs proposed a bold initiative, the Great Nap Census of 1123. His goal? To quantify the nation's sleep habits, to measure the unmeasurable, to turn snoozing into science. The census was vast. Teams of scribes traveled across provinces, armed with quills and questions. Do you nap daily? Preferred nap duration? Do you snore in iambic pentameter? The results were staggering. 87% of scholars napped with scrolls on their faces. 42% of farmers preferred hay-based pillows. 3% of warriors claimed to nap with one eye open just in case. And 1% of monks insisted they could nap while levitating, though no one could confirm this without floating themselves. Minister Lee compiled the data into a scroll so long it required 2 oxen to carry. He presented it to the emperor, who read the first line, nodded, and promptly fell asleep. Inspired, the emperor created the Ministry of Rest, a new department tasked with distributing nap permits, ranking nap quality using a scale from light doze to transcendent snore, and hosting annual nap symposia where scholars debated topics like the ethics of pillow hoarding and dreams as tax deductions. One official, Scribe Yon Fu, developed a nap-tracking abacus. Another, Lady Siesta, invented the nap bell, a gentle chime that signaled the start of sanctioned snoozing. The census became a cultural touchstone. Children memorized nap statistics in school. Poets wrote odes to optimal nap angles. And somewhere in the mountains, a Taoist monk chuckled, knowing that the best naps were still the ones unmeasured, high atop the misty peaks of Mount Qingcheng, where clouds drifted like lazy thoughts and waterfalls whispered ancient secrets, lived a community of Taoist monks who had mastered the most elusive of arts. Not swordplay, not alchemy, but the sacred science of napping. They called it cloud napping. To the untrained eye, it looked like lying on mossy rocks and snoring gently, but to the monks, it was a spiritual practice. They believed that midday sleep aligned their ki, life energy, with the rhythms of the universe. To nap, said Master Snoozing Crane, is to float between yin and yang, like a dumpling in broth. Master Snoozing Crane was a legend. He claimed to have achieved immortality by napping so deeply he forgot how to age, and his teachings were compiled in a scroll titled The Tao of Dozing, which included such wisdom as the pillow is the path, to nap is to know, and if you dream of dumplings, you are halfway to nirvana. Monks practiced various nap styles, the floating leaf, lying on a bamboo mat, and imagining oneself drifting down a river, the silent snore, napping so quietly that even birds refused to chirp, and the reverse nap, sleeping upside down to confuse worldly desires. One monk, Little Yawn, once napped for 36 hours straight and woke up fluent in birdsong. Another, Brother Drowsy Lotus, claimed he could nap while walking, though he often walked into trees. Visitors to the temple were invited to join the monks in the hour of stillness, a daily ritual where everyone lay down, closed their eyes, and let their thoughts dissolve like sugar in tea. No one spoke, no one judged, and occasionally someone drooled. When the emperor himself visited, seeking wisdom, Master Snoozing Crane offered only a pillow and a smile. The emperor napped for 22 minutes and awoke with a new decree. Let all who seek truth first seek rest. Every spring, when cherry blossoms danced like sleepy confetti and the air smelled faintly of steamed buns and sandalwood, the city of Suzhou hosted an event unlike any other, the Great Nap Festival. It began centuries ago when a local governor named Drowsy Hu declared, "Let there be a day where no one works, no one worries, and everyone naps like emperors." The emperor, who had just awoken from a particularly satisfying dream about dumplings, approved the idea immediately. And so, once a year, the entire city transformed into a haven of rest. Festival highlights: the Pillow Parade. Citizens crafted elaborate floats shaped like pillows, clouds, and yawning dragons. Children, dressed as snoozing scholars, waved silk fans and tossed lavender sachets into the crowd. The Snore Symphony. Musicians performed lullabies using bamboo flutes, zither, and the rare snore drum, a percussion instrument that mimicked the rhythmic breathing of a well-rested monk. The Napathon, a competitive event where participants tried to nap in the most creative locations, on rooftops, in boats, under dumpling carts. One year, a man won by napping inside a giant teapot. Dream lanterns. At dusk, people wrote their dreams on rice paper and placed them inside lanterns. As the lanterns floated into the sky, the city glowed with hopes, wishes, and one lantern that simply read, "More noodles. Festival rules. No loud noises. No work discussions. All citizens must carry a pillow or soft object at all times. Yawning in public is encouraged and rewarded with free tea." Even the imperial court participated. Ministers held meetings while reclining. Edicts were signed with feather pens dipped in chamomile, and the emperor himself hosted a royal recline, where nobles gathered to nap in synchronized harmony. One year, a visiting diplomat from the West asked, "What is the purpose of this festival?" A local replied, "To remind ourselves that rest is not weakness. It is wisdom wrapped in a blanket. So, if life ever feels too fast, too loud, too tangled, imagine Suzhou during the Great Nap Festival. Close your eyes. Let your thoughts drift like lanterns. And remember, sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is nap. Deep within the labyrinthine halls of the Imperial Library of Chengdu, past the scrolls on dumpling taxation and the treatises on goose etiquette, there existed a hidden chamber marked only by a faint carving of a yawning dragon and the scent of sandalwood and ink. This was the meeting place of the Sleepy Scholar Society, a secret club of academic nappers who believed that true wisdom came not from endless study, but from strategic slumber. Founded by the legendary Professor Dai Mian, whose name literally meant to wear sleep, the society operated under strict rules. All members must nap at least once during every study session. Snoring in rhythm with Confucian verse was encouraged. Dream journals were mandatory and reviewed quarterly. No member shall be disturbed unless the library is on fire or dumplings are being served. The society's motto, "Cogito, dormio, ergo sum." I nap, therefore I am. Meetings were held weekly, disguised as advanced scroll preservation seminars. In reality, scholars gathered on plush mats, sipped chrysanthemum tea, and debated topics like whether dreaming of dumplings is a sign of spiritual hunger, whether one can nap so deeply they forget their thesis, and whether pillows should be considered sacred academic tools. One member, scholar Yun Yan, claimed to have solved a complex mathematical riddle in his sleep. Another, Lady Zhenxiang, dreamt of a goose reciting poetry and later published a best-selling scroll titled Feathers of Thought. The society even developed its own nap rating system. Level 1, the blink barely counts. Level 2, the scholar sigh, light doze with occasional muttering. Level 3, the scroll snuggle, face buried in parchment. Level 4, the enlightened snore, accompanied by profound dreams. Level 5, the transcendent drool, requires cleanup and applause. Despite its secrecy, rumors of the society spread. Students began mimicking their techniques. Professors added nap theory to their syllabi. And even the emperor sent a royal pillow embroidered with the phrase, "Dream boldly," in the sprawling imperial palace of Chang'an, where corridors twisted like dragon tails and secrets slept beneath silk rugs. There existed a room no one dared enter. It was hidden behind a tapestry of a yawning tiger and guarded by 2 stone lions who looked suspiciously drowsy. This was the forbidden nap chamber. No one knew exactly why it was forbidden. Some said it was cursed. Others claimed it was once the site of a nap so powerful it altered the emperor's personality. One scroll, half burned and heavily footnoted, referred to it as the Chamber of Dream Echoes. The story begins with Emperor Li Wu, a ruler known for his curiosity, his fondness for fermented plum juice, and his habit of asking questions like, what if pillows had feelings? One day, he discovered the chamber. Inside, he found a single jade bed, surrounded by mirrors and perfumed with lotus and mystery. Ignoring the warnings of his advisors and the increasingly loud snoring of the stone lions, he lay down and napped for 3 days. When he awoke, he was different. He spoke in riddles. He insisted all ministers wear pajamas to court. He declared that the dumplings were sentient and should be consulted on foreign policy. He renamed the treasury the blanket fort of prosperity. Concerned, the royal physicians examined him. His qui is tangled, they said, possibly knotted around a dream. The chamber was sealed. The tapestry was hung. The emperor eventually returned to normal, though he continued to greet ambassadors with a yawn and a pillow. Years later, a young scholar named Meng Xiao attempted to study the chamber. He snuck in, napped for 47 minutes, and awoke fluent in a language no one recognized. He spent the rest of his life translating his dreams into poetry, which was banned for being too sleepy. The forbidden nap chamber became legend. Some said it was a portal to the subconscious realm. Others believed it was simply too comfortable for mortal minds to handle. So, if you ever find a room that feels too cozy, too quiet, too perfectly scented, proceed with caution. You might wake up with a new personality or a sudden urge to negotiate with dumplings. In the tranquil city of Hangzhou, where the lakes shimmered like sleepy mirrors and cranes practiced Tai Chi at dawn, there lived a peculiar artist named Master Mo Shui, known across the empire as the inventor of snore calligraphy. Yes, snore calligraphy. It began one rainy afternoon when Master Mo, exhausted from painting plum blossoms and arguing with his cat, fell asleep on a scroll. As he snored, his breath caused his brush, still dipped in ink, to twitch gently across the parchment. When he awoke, he discovered a series of elegant, swirling strokes that resembled the character for dream, followed by something that looked suspiciously like a dumpling. Inspired, he began experimenting. He built a special nap desk with a suspended brush that hovered above rice paper. As he slept, his snores, measured by a bamboo resonance tube, guided the brush in rhythmic patterns. Each nap produced a unique piece of art, titled, according to the dream that accompanied it, Whispers of the Moon Goose, Dumpling in the Mist, The Yawn That Became a River. Critics were baffled. Is this art? They asked. Or just sleep graffiti? The emperor, intrigued, summoned Master Mo for a demonstration. The artist napped for 27 minutes, snored in perfect pentameter, and produced a scroll so mesmerizing that the emperor declared it a visual lullaby. Soon, snore calligraphy became a trend. Scholars napped with brushes tied to their fingers. Monks meditated while their breath painted mandalas. One ambitious noble tried to snore in cursive and accidentally invented a new dialect. The Imperial Academy added dream-driven ink to its curriculum. Students were graded on snore rhythm, brush control, and the emotional depth of their drool patterns. Master Mo's most famous piece, The Nap That Knew Too Much, was said to contain a hidden prophecy. Unfortunately, it was smudged when a goose stepped on it. In the mist-veiled village of Mengyon, nestled between whispering bamboo groves and a river that hummed lullabies, lived a peculiar group of dreamers known as the Pillow Prophets. They weren't monks. They weren't scholars. They were professional nappers, led by the enigmatic Grand Dreamer Lan Zhu. The Pillow Prophets believed that the future was not written in stars or scrolls, but in dreams. Specifically, dreams dreamt on specially enchanted pillows stuffed with lotus petals, phoenix feathers, and a pinch of moonlight, or so they claimed. Each pillow was embroidered with a unique symbol: the spiral of possibility, the dragon of destiny, the bowl of unexpected noodles. Villagers would visit the prophets with questions. Will my dumpling shop succeed? Is my goose truly loyal? Should I marry the tofu merchant or the scroll binder? The prophets would nap on the appropriate pillow, snore gently, and awaken with cryptic answers like, "Your dumpling shall fly." The goose knows. Marry the one who dreams in color. One day, the emperor himself sent a royal courier with a question. Will the empire endure? Grand Dreamer. Lan Zhu napped for 3 days on the pillow of celestial continuity. When he awoke, he simply said, only if the naps continue. The emperor, wisely interpreting this as a call for national restfulness, declared a new holiday, Dream Day, where all citizens were encouraged to nap and record their visions. The imperial archives filled with scrolls titled, I dreamt of a giant dumpling and felt hopeful. My goose spoke Latin. The river sang to me about taxes. Skeptics scoffed. Dreams are nonsense, they said. But when a farmer dreamt of a flood and warned his village, saving dozens of lives, the scoffing stopped. The pillow prophets became revered. Their pillows were passed down through generations. One was even enshrined in the Temple of Tranquil Truth, guarded by a cat named Oracle Whiskers, in the serene waters of West Lake, where willows wept with grace and lotus blossoms floated like sleepy thoughts. There sailed a vessel unlike any other. It had no oars, no sails, and no destination. It was known simply as the nap boat, crafted from fragrant cedar and lined with silk cushions. The nap boat was the brainchild of Captain Du Mian, a retired fisherman who once caught a fish so wise it convinced him to pursue a life of leisure. "Why chase fish?" the fish allegedly said, "when you can chase dreams?" And so, Captain Du built a boat not for travel, but for tranquility. Each morning, he welcomed passengers aboard with a bow and a whisper, no talking, only napping. The boat would drift gently across the lake, guided by the breeze and the occasional helpful duck. Features of the nap boat: pillow stations. Each guest received a personalized pillow infused with lavender, goose down, and a hint of nostalgia. Dream scrolls. Passengers were encouraged to record their dreams upon waking, stored in a waterproof chest labeled "In case of inspiration." The snore bell. A soft chime rang every hour to signal a new nap cycle. If no one stirred, the bell rang again, quieter, as if embarrassed. Notable passengers: scholar Yan Wu, who claimed to have solved a riddle about the cosmos while napping beneath the canopy; Lady Xiaolan, who composed an entire poem in her sleep titled Ode to the Floating Dumpling; a goose named General Honk, who boarded once and refused to leave, becoming the boat's unofficial mascot and foot warmer. The nap boat became a legend. Poets wrote verses about its drifting grace. Artists painted it mid-lake, surrounded by dream bubbles and snoring scholars. One emperor even tried to replicate it in his palace moat, but the koi fish were too judgmental. Captain Du never charged a fee. Dreams, he said, should be free range. When he passed away peacefully, mid-nap, the boat was anchored in a quiet cove and turned into a floating shrine. To this day, locals say that if you nap near its resting place, you'll dream of clouds, dumplings, and a goose who hums lullabies. In the shadowed valleys between the kingdoms of Zhou and Qi, where moonlight draped the hills like silk and owls whispered secrets to the stars, tensions had reached a quiet boil-over noodle borders, ceremonial goose dances, and the proper angle of bowing. Conflicts that had nearly led to war. But war, as it turned out, was too exhausting. Enter emissary Yun Mo, a diplomat from Zhou, known for his radical theory. All conflicts stem from poor sleep. He proposed a daring solution: the Midnight Nap Summit, to be held at the stroke of 12 under the full moon, in a neutral grove of plum trees. The leaders of both kingdoms, weary from endless negotiations and goose-related paperwork, agreed. Upon arrival by lantern light, delegates moved in silence, each carrying a pillow embroidered with their kingdom's crest, and formed the circle of rest, arranging cushions in a perfect ring. No one spoke. They simply lay down, closed their eyes, and let the moon do the talking. Shared dreams followed: dumplings floating across a river, a goose offering a peace scroll, both kingdoms dancing together in pajamas. Emissary Yun Mo recorded the visions, reading them as symbols of unity, hunger, and mutual goose admiration. The treaty terms were set: a joint nap zone along the border with hammocks and tea service, goose dances choreographed collaboratively, noodle borders dissolved in favor of shared soup festivals, and an annual midnight nap to renew the pact, exchanging dream scrolls as gifts. The treaty was signed not with ink, but with synchronized yawns and a ceremonial fluffing of pillows. From that night on, the Midnight Nap Treaty became a beacon of peaceful resolution. Scholars studied it, poets praised it, and one monk even claimed it was the most enlightened diplomatic act since the invention of the dumpling. It was the year of the sleepy ox, and the imperial palace of Luoyang was preparing for the annual Feather Festival, a grand celebration of rest, dreams, and the unveiling of the emperor's prized possession, the celestial pillow. This was no ordinary cushion, stuffed with phoenix down, stitched with threads of moonlight, and rumored to induce prophetic dreams. The celestial pillow was kept under lock, key, and the watchful eye of General Snorgard, a man who hadn't blinked in 7 years. And yet, it vanished. The morning of the festival, the pillow was gone. In its place, a single goose feather and a note that read, "Too comfy to resist. Sweet dreams." Panic erupted. Ministers fainted. The emperor, robbed of his ceremonial nap, declared a state of emergency and ordered the formation of the Royal Restorative Reconnaissance Unit, a crack team of sleepy sleuths led by Detective Xiaomian, famed for solving the case of the vanishing hammock. The investigation? Clue number 1, a trail of lavender petals leading to the palace kitchens. Clue number 2, a scroll titled Blueprints for Pillow Extraction, hidden inside a dumpling steamer. Clue number 3, a goose wearing a tiny eye mask and looking suspiciously well rested. The trail led to the Society of the Silent Snooze, a rogue band of nap enthusiasts who believed the celestial pillow belonged to the people. Their leader, the elusive Napoleon Fluffapart, was a former palace nap tutor turned revolutionary. The heist, reconstructed. The society infiltrated the palace, disguised as pillow fluffers. They lulled the guards to sleep with lullaby-infused incense, using a pulley system made of silk sashes and dumpling steam. They extracted the pillow through the skylight. They escaped on a raft made entirely of bundled blankets. The resolution: Detective Xiaomian tracked them to a hidden nap sanctuary in the mountains. But instead of arresting them, he joined them for a nap. Upon waking, he declared, "They're right. This pillow is too powerful for one head." A compromise was reached. The celestial pillow would tour the empire, spending 1 week in each village, bringing dreams and drool to all. The emperor agreed, on the condition that he got it back every 3rd Tuesday. And so, the great pillow heist became legend, not for its crime, but for its cause, the belief that rest, like wisdom, should be shared high above the mortal realm. Beyond the drifting clouds and the songs of starlight sat the Jade Emperor, ruler of the heavens, keeper of cosmic order, and, though few dared say it aloud, a connoisseur of naps. For millennia, he had governed the universe with wisdom, grace, and a strict afternoon nap schedule. His throne was carved from moonstone. His pillow was stuffed with the size of sleeping phoenixes. His dreams, it was said, shaped the tides, the seasons, and occasionally the flavor of dumplings. But even immortals grow weary. One twilight, as the stars blinked in reverence, and the Milky Way hummed a lullaby, the Jade Emperor summoned his court. "I have dreamed all dreams," he said, his voice soft as falling snow. "I have napped through comets, eclipses, and the invention of noodles. It is time for my final rest." Gasps echoed through the celestial palace. The gods of thunder and tea wept openly. The kitchen spirit fainted into a walk. The emperor smiled. "Do not mourn, for in sleep I shall still watch over you. My dreams will become the wind, the rain, the quiet moments between thoughts." He lay upon the pillow of eternal repose, a cushion woven from starlight and silence. As he closed his eyes, the heavens dimmed, the constellations paused, even time itself held its breath. And then he slept. What happened next? The celestial clock stopped ticking for exactly one breath, then resumed with a gentler rhythm. A new star appeared in the sky, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The sages called it the Dreaming One. The Emperor's dreams continued to ripple through the cosmos. Gentle breezes, sudden insights, perfectly timed yawns. The gods built a shrine in his honor, a floating temple where clouds gathered to nap, and mortals occasionally glimpsed in their dreams. Pilgrims left offerings of tea, feathers, and bedtime poems, and though the Jade Emperor never woke, his presence was felt in every peaceful sigh, every restful pause, every dream that ended with a smile. In the bustling city of Nanjing, where scholars debated over tea and dumplings were considered a form of currency, a revolutionary idea took root. What if naps were a sport? Thus began the Nap Olympics, a biennial event that transformed the city into a snore-filled stadium of dreams, founded by the visionary pillow baron Wang Xie, who once declared, "Let the world compete not in speed, but in serenity." The Nap Olympics drew participants from every corner of the empire: monks, merchants, ministers, and one very determined goose named Captain Honk. Olympic events included speed snoozing, where the reigning champion, Lady Yun Yun, once nodded off mid-sentence while saying, "I'm not tired." Dream freestyle, in which contestants described their dreams to judges, earning points for creativity, emotional depth, and dumpling content, including a moon made of tofu and a goose conducting an orchestra. Synchronized snoring, with teams of 4 napping in harmony, as the monks of Mount Qingcheng won gold with their rendition of "The Wind Beneath My Pillow." Endurance nap, measuring the longest nap without waking, drooling, or rolling off the mat, where the scholar Zhao Dan slept for 19 hours and awoke fluent in 3 dialects and 1 bird language. And pillow toss, a light-hearted contest of embroidered pillows thrown for distance and elegance, with bonus points for mid-air fluffiness. Ceremony highlights featured the opening yawn, a collective yawn from the crowd that signaled the start of the games, followed by a gentle chime and the release of lavender-scented nap scrolls. The torch of tranquility carried by a rotating team of napping champions, feather-shaped and glowing softly with moonlight. And the closing nap, as all participants gathered in the grand pavilion of pillows for a final communal snooze, accompanied by harp music and the distant hum of dumpling steamers. The Nap Olympics became a cultural phenomenon. Cities held qualifiers, schools introduced nap training, and one emperor declared, "Let all citizens train in the art of rest, for a well-napped nation is a wise one." Long ago, in the quiet valleys of Yunzhou, there existed a sacred tradition known as wuxu, the 5th nap. Practiced by sages and sleepy poets, wuxu was the midday nap, taken not for rest alone, but for revelation. It was believed that the 5th nap of the day unlocked the deepest dreams, the ones that whispered truths too gentle for waking ears. But as empires rose and fell, and the world grew louder with ambition and scrolls about productivity, wuxu faded. Nap halls became meeting rooms. Dream scrolls were shelved for ledgers. The 5th nap was forgotten, until now. In the village of Mengling, a young scroll binder named Lin Xiao stumbled upon a dusty manuscript titled "The Breath Between Thoughts." It described Wuxu in poetic detail. The timing, the posture, the pillow rituals, even the recommended snack, lotus buns with plum jam. Inspired, Lin began practicing Wuxu daily. His dreams grew vivid. Rivers that sang, dumplings that debated philosophy, a goose who taught him ancient lullabies. He shared his experiences with others, and slowly the tradition returned. The revival spread. Nap circles formed in tea houses, where citizens gathered at the fifth hour to recline and reflect. Dream scrolls reappeared in markets, filled with visions of peace, floating cats, and noodle diplomacy. The temple of Wuxu was rebuilt, its walls inscribed with the phrase, "In stillness, we remember." Even the emperor, upon hearing of the revival, declared Wuxu a national treasure. Let every citizen nap not just for rest, he proclaimed, but for rediscovery. And so, the fifth nap returned, not as a relic, but as a ritual, a pause in the day where the soul could wander, the mind could soften, and the heart could listen. As our tale comes to a close, may you carry the spirit of Wuxu with you. Let your dreams be gentle, your naps be noble, and your pillow always just the right amount of fluffy. Whether you nap once or 5 times a day, remember, in rest there is wisdom, in dreams there is wonder, and in every yawn a story waiting to be told. So tuck in your thoughts, fluff your hopes, and drift softly into the night. Good night.